What's going on, Broncos country? Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about an interesting NFL draft rumor that came out from a credible source that said there's a chance that Drake Maye could slip, could fall in this year's draft, which would open the door for Denver to maybe jump up and land the superstar quarterback out of UNC. So let's break it down on today's show because NFL.com's Lance Zierlein, who I think is one of the better draft experts, if you will, out there, hopped on Daniel Jeremiah's podcast, Move the Sticks, and said, according to a source that he trusts, he is hearing there's a chance that Drake Maye could slide in the draft. And if that happens, this might be the Hail Mary that Sean Payton needs to move up and get his franchise quarterback, because we have heard a lot of buzz that Sean Payton wants to get his quarterback for the future in this year's draft. So Lance Zierlein recently put out his first mock draft for 2024, and it's pretty chalk for the first few picks, although Marvin Harrison at number 3 to New England would definitely be a shocker. But how about Drake Maye going to the Falcons at number 5? Now, I know that is not the Broncos, but if Drake Maye were to fall out of the top 3, I'm sure the Arizona Cardinals phones would be ringing off the hook. But I think Arizona would want to stay put and get a future wide receiver for Kyler Murray. And that's the situation. Well, then you've got the number 5 pick with the Chargers, and maybe that could be a spot where teams start moving up. Now, let's at least first address the possibility of Drake Maye falling. Because right now in February, that seems impossible, right? All we do is we consume all these mock drafts, and they all have Drake Maye going number 2, maybe number 3, but definitely not past that. But I am old enough to remember just last year, so many mock drafts had Will Levis going top 10. The guy didn't even go round 1. So many mock drafts had Malik Willis going round 1. Guy didn't go until round 3. So many mock drafts had Justin Fields going top 10. He fell to number 11, and the Bears traded up for him. Josh Allen was supposed to be the next Cleveland Browns quarterback, first overall. And then a week before the draft, we get a pivot, and he falls to 7. Okay? Deshaun Watson was looked at as a top 10 lock in 2017. He fell to number 12. So, it might sound outlandish, it might sound crazy, and that's partially true, but we have plenty of evidence to show that mock drafts do not always represent what happens in April. So I could see a world where maybe we do get some chaos because that's the NFL draft for you. My issue isn't so much about Drake Maye falling out of the top 5, which I personally don't think he does, but I think there is a possibility of expect the unexpected. My biggest issue is pick number 5, the LA Chargers. They're not trading it to the Denver Broncos. They are not going to let the Broncos get a potential franchise quarterback who they have to face twice a season. Let's say the Bears go quarterback, the Commanders go quarterback, and then the Patriots go wide receiver. I believe the Arizona Cardinals at 4 would definitely get a lot of interest if Drake Maye or even Jaden Daniels was still available at this point. But from what I've heard, it's that Arizona wants to just play it safe and take the best wide receiver for Kyler Murray. So now you've got the Chargers at 5, who've got Justin Herbert, so they would definitely be open to trading down if a star quarterback was still available. The Giants, they've sort of got a quarterback. The Titans got a quarterback. So unfortunately, I think the earliest that Denver could jump to is number 6, because I just do not see a way the Chargers agree to trade with the Broncos, allowing Denver to draft Drake Maye. Like, if I'm the Chargers, and even if the Broncos offer you an incredible haul, I would just stay put and take Brock Bowers or an awesome tackle or something like that and improve your own team and don't allow a division competitor to go get their franchise QB. So the New York Giants at number 6, I think would be the earliest spot. Cardinals are a chance, but I really do think they're going to stay at number 4 and take the best wide receiver on the board. So here's what a trade could look like for Denver to jump up to 6 if somehow Drake Maye is still available at that spot. We're talking a first-round pick swap this year, and I thought about tossing in a future first, and this is what I want to do. This is just what I think it would cost, but I don't think it would actually cost you a future first to go from 12 to 6. I think a future third or this year's third and a future second could get the job done. So a 2024 third rounder and a 2025 second rounder may be enough to go from 12 to 6. But let me know, will the Broncos trade up? Give me a yes or no down below in the comments section. I would love to know what you think about whether or not this is going to happen. Personally, I think we're going to hear a lot of reports leak after the draft that Denver was trying to move up, but ultimately they could not make it happen. This happens every single year in the draft, where a quarterback or a star player starts to fall and teams leak out to the media. We tried to trade up, but we just couldn't make it happen. That way their fan base knows, well, at least they tried, right? We can't be too mad at them. But we spent all this time talking about the possibility of trading up, and we haven't even talked about, is Drake Maye a good quarterback? Like, is Drake Maye the kind of quarterback worthy of trading up for? The answer is yes. Drake Maye, in my opinion, is going to be a star quarterback in this league. He really emerged on the scene last year in Chapel Hill, and then this past season, yes, there is a regression from yards and touchdowns and things like that, but I still think Drake Maye has every single characteristic you look for in a star quarterback. I think Drake Maye's got the potential to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. I am all in on Drake Maye. I think Caleb Williams is the real deal. I think Drake Maye is the real deal. I think Jaden Daniels could be the real deal. This quarterback class is loaded. Unfortunately, it's a little bit top heavy. Like, I like Bo Nix. I actually don't like Bo Nix all that much. I like Michael Penix a lot. That's my favorite of that next tier of quarterbacks, of Penix, Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy. So if Drake Maye were to somehow fall, which this does happen, we might have to tweet out a bong picture. He might not like that, but that might be the only path to get Drake Maye to Denver. So we've seen Sean Payton do it. Maybe he passes it over to Drake. It's like basically not a big deal in the NFLPA's eyes anymore. So I think Drake Maye is a Pro Bowl caliber QB. Let's get it done. All right, up next on the show, could we see Baker Mayfield come to the Broncos? We had an interesting quote come out from NFL Super Bowl Media Week, and we're going to break that down on today's show. But before we do, I do want to tell everyone about our awesome sponsor today, which is Game Time. Thanks to Game Time, I've had an absolute blast saving money on tickets for all the best sporting events across the country. But not only is Game Time giving Broncos Country $20 off when you use code BroncosChat, if you are thinking of going to the big game, which you might have heard of is going down this weekend in Las Vegas, you can save $100 when you use code Vegas100. Now, I'm not going to stand here and act like $100 is going to dramatically alter the price of a ticket to the big game, but if you are thinking of a last-minute trip, wouldn't you rather save $100 than not save $100? So make sure you use code Vegas100 to get $100 off a ticket to the big game. Now, if you are unable to go, believe me, I'm in the same camp. I'll be watching on my couch as well. But you can save some money for Nuggets games, Avs games, any other sporting event in your local area when you use code BroncosChat and get $20 off. So download Game Time today and use that code BroncosChat for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring this edition of the Broncos Breakdown. All right, next up on the show, let's talk about Baker Mayfield coming to the Broncos, because I saw a pretty interesting tweet from some boots-on-the-ground reporters at Media Row at the Super Bowl, as Denver Sports' Andrew Mason was able to sit down with Boomer Esiason, and he asked him about, what about Baker Mayfield to the Broncos as a quarterback? And here's what Boomer said. Baker proved that he could do it. You know, Baker's going to be a free agent. Oh, I'd love to see him with Sean Payton. That would be unbelievable. They'd be screaming back and forth at each other. I saw a lot of people take that quote and run. I'm not going to run. I'm actually going to stay still. I think Boomer Esiason is just saying, I'd love to see it because the two have very fiery personalities. I don't think Boomer Esiason is going, let me put on my NFL free agency rumors hat and say, this is going to happen. Keep an eye on it. I believe there is a 95% chance that Baker Mayfield just re-signs in Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers were, I wouldn't say mailing it in this past season, but they were keeping a low profile. They had a lot of dead money to shed, and they just went for a cheap option with Baker. And hey, if they were able to win some games, awesome, but they didn't have big expectations. They did not expect to win a playoff game. So I don't see a way that the Bucks let Baker leave, and I don't think Baker wants to leave Tampa. Like, the guy has had some success before in his career with the Browns, but there were some rocky seasons at the end of Cleveland, and then in Carolina, and then in LA, and he found some stability in Tampa. I don't think he's going to try and take the bag and run if another team offers him an extra $1 million or so. Like I said, he had a really good 2023 season, over 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, a career high, 10 interceptions. Credit to Baker. He had a really good and a much-needed bounce-back year. Now, we'll talk more about this in just a second, but free agency is coming up in just a few weeks, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way, when we start getting some signings in, you are the first to know. So help us reach our next, infant milestone, 20,400 subscribers. Ultimately, it's not even about, I don't want Baker Mayfield. I don't want to see more quarterback rehab in Denver. How many quarterbacks have we seen come to the Broncos as a second or a third stop as a short-term piece, right? Joe Flacco, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater. I'm done. I understand Baker had a really good season, but it's just not the right time for Denver to go back in time and redo the quarterback. It's not even quite rehab for Baker because it would be a nice contract, but just, hey, let's see if we can jumpstart Baker a little bit more and bring on another veteran QB for a short-term, short-gap period. And Baker's not even going to be a short-gap quarterback because I think he's going to get a 3-year, $90 million contract. This is just my projection. Maybe the Bucks throw 4 years at him. He had one really good season, but I'm sure Tampa's going to be somewhat resistant to take that 1 year and stretch it to a 4 or 5 year contract. So I could see him getting a similar to a Geno Smith contract. 3 years, $90 million. You guarantee half of it. It's an average of $30 million. Basically, it's a 2-year, $45 million contract. But would you sign Baker Mayfield? S for sign, P for pass. We haven't even really addressed the fact that Denver doesn't have $90 million to spend on a quarterback. Their quarterback room budget has already gigantically ballooned up. They've got Russell Wilson, who's not even on the team, who's got an $85 million dead cap hit. Then you've got Jarrett Stidham casually chipping in for $10 million. And then whatever Ben DiNucci makes. It doesn't matter. That's pennies. But still, we're talking before you even sign a quarterback like Baker, you've got nearly $100 million put in the quarterback room. And they're going to go out and sign Baker to a $90 million contract? No way. I'm sorry, guys. It ain't happening. All right, that's going to do it for us on this show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate those of you that take time out of your day to come hang out with us. We will sign off and see everyone later.